All right, folks, I have a major update for you on Epstein-related news. Subpoenas are going out. New subpoenas are going out to people very close to Jeffrey Epstein who probably know some things and probably have something to say. Now, whether they cooperate, that's a different story. But I bet that Donald Trump has been so elated, so happy that the Epstein story has largely been out of the news in the past couple of weeks. I mean, you have Venezuela, you have him talking about invading Cuba, Panama, Greenland, whatever it is. He has so many different countries he wants to invade at this point. And then, of course, you have this awful murder in Minneapolis yesterday where an ICE agent in broad daylight killed somebody. So major stories happening nonetheless, but Donald Trump is probably happy underneath it all that the Epstein story has been kind of out of the news. And that's why I continue to cover it here. I won't stop covering it here despite what Donald Trump wants. That's what we do here. So make sure to subscribe down below, drop a like on the video, comment, let me know what you think about the story. I want to pause and also say I'm so thankful for the community we've built here. It makes everything a little less bad in my view. So I'm thankful for you folks. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Yesterday, the oversight Democrats, who have really been focusing on the Epstein issue, tweeted, breaking, ranking member Representative Robert Garcia, who has really been fantastic on the Epstein stuff, and oversight Dems are once again securing key subpoenas in the Epstein case, despite being in the minority. It's the Democrats who are working on this, not the Republicans, and I wonder why. We're demanding answers from Epstein's benefactor, Les Wexner, and the executors of the Epstein estate. We will get the truth. Those are some high-ranking people in the Epstein orbit, the Epstein circle. They probably know some things. They've probably seen some things. Now, we got to get them to cooperate. Will they go through with the subpoena? I don't know. Maybe they'd rather take, contempt of Congress as opposed to testifying under oath, but we shall see. That will also be very telling. But let me tell you how we get here. And then later, I want to talk about Les Wexner in particular, because his name appears in the emails in a pretty incriminating way. But anyway, let's talk about how we got here. The House Oversight Committee will subpoena Les Wexner, the longtime friend and client of Epstein, along with two men who worked for him. It was the culmination of a flurry of subpoena requests Wednesday from rank-and-file members of the panel, several of which were ultimately approved. The committee also voted to subpoena Darren Indike and Richard Cohen, Epstein's lawyer and accountant. And I think the accountant, especially Richard Cohen, is very, very important. I think one of the most unexplored aspects of the Epstein story is the money, the financials, the banks. What did they know? How did they not know that something nefarious was taking place? Where was the money sent? I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about where this money went, who had the money, who could access the money. It's very weird. So we're going to hear from Richard Cohen, hopefully, and that'll give us some insight. It shows how the Oversight Committee could continue to find itself at the center of efforts to reinvestigate the Epstein case as the DOJ presides over a prolonged and rocky rollout of materials. That's putting it nicely. The successful motions brought by the top Democrat, Robert Garcia, appeared to be the result of an agreement between him and Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who also successfully moved to subpoena American businessman Neville Singham and journalist Seth Harp. Quote, "There is probably no more important as it relates to the financing and the work of this investigation, which both sides of the aisle are interested in." I don't know if the Republicans are interested in it, but that's a rosy picture that Garcia is painting. Maybe he knows something we don't. Public reporting has documented their long-standing ties. He should answer our questions in a nonpartisan way to get the truth. Luna, the Republican, concurred, saying, "I think this is a sound motion for subpoena because Les Wexner has been named by victims and also, too, is in a number of documentaries." He's also in the emails, which I said we're going to talk about in just a moment. In moving to subpoena Singham, Luna cited a letter signed by then-Senator Marco Rubio, who now serves as Secretary of State, suggesting the entrepreneur may have been connected to activities that violated the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Interesting. But anyway, this point by Representative Luna, the Republican, which is interesting, actually is a good one surrounding Les Wexner, that victims have mentioned him. He's in documentaries. He's also in emails. Some pretty incriminating ones. Do you remember this email we've talked about on the show? It is in regards to the 10 conspirators. They said in this email that was among FBI agents, members of the DOJ and whatnot, they said that there are 10 conspirators surrounding Epstein. 3 were located in Florida and served subpoenas, one in Boston, one in New York City, and other places. And there were others where they really couldn't figure out where they were located. One Here's the important part. One is a wealthy businessman in Ohio, a wealthy businessman. And then follow-up emails actually mentioned Wexner by name. Hint, the wealthy businessman in the conversation of, guy being in Ohio is Les Wexner. This email says, a bunch of people are redacted. A bunch of names of co-conspirators are redacted. I want to know why. We still deserve to know why these names were redacted. But one of the names that were not redacted, whether purposeful or not, it kind of seems like they missed it, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to miss. Was this sentence down here, I do not know about Ohio contacting Wexner. So he's mentioned in the emails. He's also mentioned as a co-conspirator that was being investigated by the FBI, by the Department of Justice. I think this is a pretty important guy to get under oath. Now, as I mentioned, there have been a lot of distractions from Donald Trump to talk about literally anything but the Epstein story. Sometimes he'll get out so angry at the news coverage and just throw out a statement, but recently he's been especially silent from his Truth Social page, which is his main way of talking. So yesterday we have this disgusting statement from him regarding the Minneapolis murder, where he says that the ICE agent was acting in self-defense and that it's hard to believe that the agent is alive, even though there was no possibility of this agent losing his life, and there was no attempt by this woman to run him over, and then he apparently got treated at the hospital for what? I have no idea. He wasn't even hit. But, a statement from Donald Trump. This is just one of the many issues he's been focusing on. Then we have him talking about Raytheon and military companies not doing his bidding, saying either Raytheon steps up and starts investing in more upfront investment like plants and equipment, or they will no longer be doing business with the Department of Defense. And then later he said that he's also increasing the military budget, or wants to at least, to 1.5 trillion from around 1 trillion. So he's doing all these insane things, these things that are grabbing headlines, these things that are just flat out crazy, while also not talking about the Epstein story, which is very much taking place behind the scenes, because we also know that they're breaking the law actively in multiple different ways, not just because they haven't released the files in their entirety, but they also missed the deadline to explain why they redacted the Epstein files. That was on the 3rd of January, while all of the while all the Venezuela stuff was taking place. We captured Maduro. We had no idea what was going on. That deadline came and went. So they're breaking the law in multiple different ways with this Epstein stuff. And Donald Trump is very happy that the Epstein stuff is not in the news. But we're going to get these subpoenas, and I think they will be very telling. They will reveal a lot about Epstein if they actually talk, if they speak on the record. And they better not lie. They better not lie. That's for Mr. Wexner, who appears in these emails. Probably more than once, but his name was redacted because, Donald Trump loves protecting wealthy people. But he better not lie.